here, Ben, and I will be keeping my eye on Collar Hex because he is going to be a big deal here for the Drop Bears.
Well, it is our very first semi-final here, the first time we've seen esports in this historic Rod Laver Arena. The Sydney Drop Bears up against Kanga Esports. We're going to start it off on control here on Lijiang Tower. It's been an amazing season so far this season, Jordan. A huge thank you to McDonalds Australia, of course, who have been supporting us all season long. What are we seeing here so far with these lineups?
Well, I see initially Quats onto Wrecking Ball. That's very exciting to see. Again, quite a new hero as far as these teams are concerned. On the other side, like I said, Chrono, very keen to get on that Reinhardt. We're going to be seeing that straight away. It's Goats out from Kanga Esports. These three specific tanks, these three specific healers, and they're going to be just trying to run straight at the Sydney Drop Bears, take a brawl on that point. But Sydney Drop Bears, they're playing the counter Goats composition with the Farah, with the Sombra. They're going to try and play around this, play a little bit more split up, and not allow Kanga Esports to take that brawl on the point. So that's the win condition for both of these teams. But you've got to remember, Kanga Esports do have that speed boost from Lucio. That's going to be how they can get on top of the Drop Bears.
Well, they're going to jump onto the point to kick things off. The point is now available. Kanga, they've got 6 players still alive, as do the Drop Bears. The Drop Bears playing in green here. Kanga playing in white as the away team. And Quats here on the Wrecking Ball, Jordan. It's a lot of fun on Lijiang Tower to play in this middle room and swing round and round and round. But as you said, Krona out here on the Reinhardt.
What we're really looking forward right now is Color Hex, 96% of that ultimate. The first pick does go his way as well. And this is where we're going to see it start to slip for Kanga Esports. They've lost too many players. Sydney Drop Bears have the numbers on the point. And despite the fact that the first cap goes the way of Kanga Esports, the Drop Bears allowed that to occur. They played around it. They played it to perfection. And they're going to be able to cap it back here very shortly.
Davey doing what he can, but he will be D-Mech there, picked up. And as you said, the Drop Bears should be able to bring this back out at 30% now for Kanga. The Drop Bears waited and waited. They got their ultimates, those big abilities, Jordan, that gives you a huge advantage.
Exactly. Lots of ultimates available right now for the Sydney Drop Bears to hold on to things. The Minefield is going to be excellent for stalling that point, but we really have to talk about the EMP out here for Jordation that can wreak havoc for the Kanga Esports roster, and we need to see a big one out here from Jordation. That'll win the fight for Sydney Drop Bears.
Jordation here on Sombra, as you said, that EMP, that can almost stop all of the abilities, all of the ultimates. He's waiting to use it at the perfect time, but right now they don't need to do that. One by one, Kanga are going down. The Drop Bears are finding the kills that they need to. And look at that, they're going to eliminate Kanga there. They're going to have to reset, come back, try again.
Yeah, once again, I think that's actually really good from Sydney Drop Bears. They don't use the EMP. Kanga didn't really have any ultimates, so it wasn't going to shut much down. They've decided to go with the Minefield. They decided to go with the Nano Boost. They still comfortably win the fight, and EMP is still available now for this fight. And if Jordation can get that off before Roro gets the grab out, before Chrono is able to get the Earth Shatter out, again, that's going to wreak havoc for the Kanga Esports roster.
Yeah, as you said, some of these ultimate abilities, when combined together, can be even more powerful. The Color Hex here with the Rocket Barrage ready to go in combination potentially with Jordation on that EMP as well. Can wreak huge damage. Kanga trying to get back onto the point. There you go, coming through. That's the EMP used. You can see Merritt goes down. Davey very low. Chrono picked up as well. The Drop Bears guaranteed to win this fight. Now Kanga are starting to stack ultimates of their own. Next fight, Jordan, they will have 6.
Exactly, another easy fight out for the Sydney Drop Bears. A good combo. Sombra means that there's not going to be any Reinhardt shield available. Color Hex, an easy Rocket Barrage. But like you mentioned, Kanga have not used a single ultimate here. They're going to be starting off with the EMP on Locust. Chrono's going to look for a great Earth Shatter. There's going to be the grab. There's everything available for Kanga. So if they can't win this fight, they're not going to win a fight. And they have to win this fight because they're at 96%.
Self-destruct comes through, finds Roro. That's a big, big pick. No Graviton Surge now available. Jordation pushing through here on the Sombra. You can see Merritt in the background as well, using their ultimate. Hammer down comes through. Chrono Dodo doing what he can with the Earth Shatter. The ultimate there from Reinhardt. Will it be enough, Jordan?
Color Hex does have the ultimate coming up shortly as well, but Chrono, or rather Roro, didn't actually use his grab because he died early in that fight. Sydney Drop Bears are going to have to back off just for a little bit here. Just need to reset, slow things down. That's fair enough. They've got a lot of time to play with, but I like what I'm seeing from the Drop Bears here. They're playing proactively. They're trying to force things poorly for Kanga Esports.
Graviton Surge. Nice Graviton Surge actually coming out from Roro. Very proactive there, pushing Color Hex back, preventing Color Hex there on the flying Farah from using the ultimate, using the Rocket Barrage. Kanga doing okay here, Jordan, bringing it back 99 to 60%.
My concern, though, for Kanga is that now they've used those ultimates, now that Sydney Drop Bears have had time to build some more up, once we get that EMP comboed with the Rocket Barrage once again for Sydney Drop Bears, is Kanga going to be able to hold on? This self-destruct, not going to be able to find anything there for Kanga Esports, and Davey almost gets picked off by Colorhex. That would have been bad indeed. However, he does survive, so another 6v6 fight, and the timer is starting to tick away in the favor of Kanga. It's do or die now for Sydney Drop Bears.
It is. If this gets to 99, we go into overtime. There's the barrage coming through from Colorhex.
Davey
doesn't find anyone. It's Davey with the big plays, takes him out. Jungle Jazz is gone. Quats picks up Davey as well. This is a big fight going in the favor of the Drop Bears right now.
Just far too many ultimates available for the Sydney Drop Bears. Davey did his best to shut down the Rocket Barrage. He wasn't hit by the EMP, but there's just so much follow-up for the Sydney Drop Bears, not to mention that initial pick that they were able to get early on before the fight even started now puts Kanga in a trickle situation. They swapped onto Tracer, they swapped onto Doomfist. They're going to try and get to that point. They're going to try and contest as long as they can, but this seems like a futile effort now. It seems like Sydney Drop Bears will take the first round.
It is almost impossible now for Kanga to pick up the first round here on Lijiang Tower. Fortunately, Lijiang itself is a best of 3. The Drop Bears, they pick up 5. There you go, that's 6. They should be able to clean this up. Jungle Jazz doing what he can here on the Lucio, but it will tick on over to the Sydney Drop Bears for round number 1.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Kanga Esports. It was very close indeed, but they gave Sydney Drop Bears too much rope at the beginning, and they weren't able to catch up. The power spikes for the GOATS composition, if you can get that first fight, it's very, very difficult to deal with. It's very difficult to run into it when the GOATS have got the ultimates available, and that's what we saw for Sydney Drop Bears. But the fact that Sydney Drop Bears had a 99% advantage allowed them to build all those ultimates up once again. They were able to take a positive fight, and unfortunately for Kanga Esports, it was not enough. So what we're looking for Kanga here, again, is they need to start off with that point capture initially. But a change up here from Kanga, if this indeed does become the case. No, it's not. Merit's going to go back onto the Moira. And once more, we're going to see GOATS. Once more, we're going to see that counter composition out from the Sydney Drop Bears. And Kanga, this time, they need to win that first fight so they get that advantage. They can get their power spikes rolling at the perfect time.
Yeah, we talk about ultimates a lot. You charge your ultimate by doing damage, by healing your teammates, and the percentage ticks up on the nameplates up the top. When you get to 100%, that is when you know it is available, and you can use it then whenever you want to. It really is. We talk about an ultimate economy, Jordan. It's really about using those ultimates at the right time.
This is going to be big.
Pile driver coming out from Quats. Look at that coming through right there on the wreck ball.
Huge.
And it will result in a number of kills going in the Drop Bears' favor to start off this fight. Unfortunately for Chrono, it looks like he's going to get picked up there.
Yeah.
And they really didn't need to do much there at all, except swing around with the hamster in the big ball.
Certainly is bad news for Kanga losing that first fight. Now I want to see how they adapt, what they're going to change up onto. They stuck with the GOATS composition on that first round. It didn't work for them. Now they're going to change things up. We've got a Tracer here for Roro. We've got a Sombra for Locust. So they're going a little bit more dive-oriented now. On that Kanga Esports side, it's going to be a bit more fluid. They're going to be able to get on top of Sydney Drop Bears a little bit easier. But in saying that, Sydney Drop Bears have got a massive, massive ultimate advantage. And Kanga Esports, once again, are playing catch-up.
Yeah, every time you swap your hero, you have to reset your ultimate there. Makes life very, very tough indeed. Kanga are onto the point, doing their best, but straight away, they've lost their tank. Davey goes down as well, the D-Mech there. No tanks to work with means no big HP buffs to try and put up barriers and whatnot and save your squishier team members, and as a result, they'll lose that fight as well. 40% is where the Drop Bears are right now, looking for 100 to close out Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, certainly. Good to see Jordation having a reasonable time on this Doomfist. We haven't seen him play it at all during the regular season, but that is a hero that has started to come into the pool, and somebody needs to play it for Sydney Drop Bears. Jordation certainly doing an okay job. Here comes
Meteor Strike, comes through, looking to find a number of players. Will pick up Jungle Jazz. The Lucio is down. Merit's picked up as well. That's no support, no healing now. That's less than ideal. Only Bertlog, a Kraken to work with. So we'll see how that plays out here for the Drop Bears. Looking very strong. 70% right now for them. Kanga's still at 0, Jordan.
Again, you have a look at the Sydney Drop Bears, how they're handling their ultimate economy. It's working to perfection. They're using 1 or 2 ultimates every single fight, winning them all the time. And Kanga are still struggling to build their ults up because they haven't been able to get any work done in these fights. This will be their last. They need to use everything.
You can see the Pulse Bomb coming through. A Kraken's going to go down there to Roro. Shoyo picked up as well. This is going to be the fight that Kanga comes back. finding Jordation. They now have the player advantage. Look at this. They're going to start charging up their ultimates, capturing the point, stops it at 97%. But as we saw before, Elfishguy, when your opponents only need to win one more fight, it is very tough. And Roro going to go down to Color
That's
Hex.
the kind of magic that Color Hex is going to be able to bring for this roster. Very, very good on that Farah. Again, a very late fight that's going to start off 5 versus 6 in the favor of Sydney's Drop Bears. That's the issue that Kanga had in their last fight there on the last point. And again, it's going to pay dividends.
Big self-destruct from Davey. Finds Bertlock, finds Color Hex. That is huge, but straight away, Drop Bears bring 2 back. We're into overtime. The Drop Bears are on the point, looking to cap it out. They will do so, and they will pick up Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, difficult game there for Kanga, but like I said, I thought it was going to be tough for them on control. They didn't really seem too comfortable on that throughout the regular season. And Sydney Drop Bears, they've started off with a good win there, but I do think the job gets a little bit tougher for Sydney Drop Bears. If we get onto Kings Row, if we get onto Temple of Maneuvers, that I think is where Kanga's going to have their best opportunity. Not to say that I necessarily think that they will win those maps, but that for me, despite the fact that Kanga has lost there, isn't the nail in the coffin.
Now, as we welcome back our analyst desk, Genome, look, to be fair, that was a pretty big stomping to kick things off on Lijiang Tower.
It was. It didn't feel like Kanga were very willing to switch, especially on Gardens there at the start. You saw they played out almost the entire map until they had to go into the Doomfist and the Wrecking Ball to try and get themselves back on the point right at the end. I mean, that initial fight, you know, you saw them, they capped the point on Gardens, but then they decided to walk into the opposing team, which if you're in the open air and you're a GOATS comp against a Farah, really isn't that great an idea. I mean, I know it's weird to sort of think, hey, maybe we need to walk backwards, walk away from the opposition, because in a game like this, you're used to just going in there and brawling and fighting, but I think that could have been the ticket.
AVRL, can you explain to me, we keep talking about GOATS, what is this team competition?
It's a very specific composition of 3 tanks and 3 support heroes. Now, there's been some changes, but for the most part, you have the Reinhardt, the Zarya, and the I was going to say the Davey. It's the Diva, really. He was playing the Diva anyway. On the support side, you have Moira, you have Lucio, and now you're seeing a little bit of the Ana being flexed in there as well. Usually, you would have seen the Brigitte instead. Now, why I think this is important is if you look at what Sydney Drop Bears are running specifically on this opening Gardens map, they have Color Hex on the fire, they have Jordation on the Sombra Quads, on the Wrecking Ball, very good heroes at dismantling what Kanga brought to the table.
Elfishguy, we saw this going through live, some very good plays coming out from the Drop Bears. Kanga almost brought it back in round 1, round 2 not the case though.
Yeah, definitely not nearly as close on round 2. I think Kanga just got put off their comfort composition. We saw them initially running the GOATS composition, and when they got forced off that, they weren't able to sort of stand up to the individual firepower, the individual plays that the Sydney Drop Bears can bring. Now, one of the issues that I did notice for Kanga Esports was that Color Hex was consistently able to get picks before the fight started. Kanga need to ensure that that's not going to be the case heading on down this series. If you're continuing to play 5 versus 6 in the really important fights, you can't really expect to win those.
Yeah, that's a pretty crucial point, isn't it, Jinmo? When we talk about this, you want to be going up 6v6. This is a game of advantages, and every advantage you can get is crucial.
You do, and something I noticed, which was a really bad sign for Kanga Esports, is that Sydney Drop Bears were playing the Mercy and the Zenyatta healer composition, okay? Now, when you've got these two in this meta, that means you don't think you're going to be punished. That means you think you can get away with it, right? Because it's a strong composition if you're not being punished for it. And that's what they're saying. They're saying, we don't think that these guys can get to our backline. We can protect them effectively, and therefore we're going to get more value out of that.
AVRL, what can Kanga do different here? Now, Jordan said before that he felt like maybe Control wasn't their best map. Do you think that there are other maps that might suit them in this best of 5?
I think, to be fair, Kanga Esports had a pretty decent start. Again, you look back onto Gardens, they actually got the initial cap, got nearly 30% of a lead. So I think if they get the early lead again on the next map onto Hybrid, maybe work around what Sydney Drop Bears are going to be bringing to the table. Because when you look at how the compositions went, how the hero swaps came in as well, Sydney Drop Bears came in very strong. They said, we know what Kanga Esports are going to be playing, and we have the counter ready to go. It's consistently been Kanga Esports so far that have to play compositional catch-up, that have to make the swaps to adjust themselves for Sydney Drop Bears and not the other way around.
Jordan, as we move across to Hybrid, obviously in this format, whilst the #1 seed picked the first map, it's the loser of each map that gets picked the next one. If you were Kanga, what are you looking at here? I'd
be looking for Kings Row. I think if I'm Kanga here, they've got a 75% win rate on it throughout the season. We haven't seen too much of it from Sydney Drop Bears, only the one map. Admittedly, they did win it, but I think that's a more comfortable map here for Kanga Esports. I think, like I said before, I think that's their better chance of the two. But I suppose really it's up to them. They might have a bit of a curveball of waiting for us here if they do go on to Eichenwald. I know they've been doing a lot of preparation, a lot of theory crafting and that kind of thing. So if you're going to bring out a curveball, I think now's the time.
Yeah, well, we I guess, have something to base this off based on what we saw in the regular season, but it's been about a month here, so a lot of time has passed. Let's go and take a look at what we're going to see for our next map. It's going to be Eichenwald, Elfishguy, incorrect. Genome, does this surprise you?
It doesn't. I think what we've seen from Kanga in that first map there is, they really want to stick onto goats. They really weren't that willing to swap onto something else. This means they're going to have to deal with a lot of Pharah. I guess that's the part that does surprise me, because obviously they were having a lot of trouble with Color Hex just then. On the first point, you see Pharah often on attack and defense, and you can use it in the second point, but that's where the Widowmaker starts becoming a little bit stronger with those very long sight lines.
AVRL, what are your thoughts about Eichenwald?
I think this is actually going to be somewhat of a good map for both teams, but more so for Sydney Drop Bears, because we talked up this double sniper from the Sydney Drop Bears, and in the current patch and in the current meta, it's not something we see super often, but when you get to hybrid on King's Road, but especially onto Eichenwald, points A and B, very prolific for the Widowmaker, and Color Hex, probably the #1 Widowmaker in Australia right now.
So we move from control over to hybrid. This one plays out a little bit differently. Let's see what hybrid is all about.
This is hybrid. Two teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
Hybrid, certainly a very interesting game type indeed. Elfishguy, I know you didn't think it was going to be Eichenwald. What are your thoughts now that they picked this?
I think it's a mistake for Kanga. I think that's going to give too much room to Color Hex, not only on the Pharah, but also on the Widowmaker on the defensive side. I definitely think this is going to be a tough one for Kanga Esports. And while I said I thought maybe King's Road, maybe Temple of Anubis were the choices, maybe they could get a map there, I'm going to go Sydney Drop Bears on this one.
Genome, I'm going to go back to you here. I want to talk about if we think that Kanga are going to start bringing this back, or they're going to get maps today. Is it going to be Eichenwald, or is it going to be something else?
I think it could be the next map. This one is definitely going to be tough. I think just as Elfish was saying there, Color Hex is going to be the problem they're going to have to deal with here. The other thing that really worries me is Kotz comes out, and we already know he's probably the best Winston in the region, maybe equal best Reinhardt in the region, and now he's shown some fantastic promise on the Wrecking Ball. So if he can play all of these heroes, it's like, how do they get around him?
How does Wrecking Ball play here on Eichenwald? We haven't had that much opportunity to see it so far. Does it favour it, AVRL, or is it something you'd leave in the back pocket?
I think they have the opportunity to bring it out. I mean, Eichenwald, especially on both A and B points, a lot of verticality, a lot of movement in terms of the geometry of the map that really favours Quats on the Wrecking Ball. I know Chrono Jodo's been practicing the hero as well, so maybe he'll bring it out. Otherwise, the Winston should come out to play.
Elfishguy, on this matchup, I know you seem a little bit concerned. If Kang can do anything different here, what can they do to get this across the line?
I don't think the Goats comp is going to be the go-to for them. We've already seen that Sydney Drop Bears are quite apt at dealing with that, so they're going to have to go for something different. Maybe that Tracer Sombra composition, if they can find a way to make that one work, maybe take the 2 flyers out of the sky, that being the Pharah Mercy combination that I'm quite expecting to see on that defensive side. I think that's the go-to for Kanga here, but look, it's going to be a real tough one for them. Hopefully they've got some sort of pocket strategy available to them. Because we haven't been seeing them pick Eichenwald throughout the regular season, I'm expecting to see something different from them, and I hope that that's going to catch Sydney Drop Bears off guard and give us a good series here. Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about this match within the scope of what playoffs is, within the scope here of what we're seeing at Laver Arena, Genome, so far, the Drop Bears have looked pretty impressive. They've had a great season. So far today, they're looking pretty good as well. Is this what we expect from them? I know you expected them to win today here in match number 1. Are they making you feel like they might have enough here to get through back-to-back with finals?
Yeah, it's been as expected, I think, so far. The fact that the only question for me was how good is Quads on the Wrecking Ball, and he's answered that question pretty resoundingly with, I want to be the best in the region again.
Yeah.
He wants, it's like, he's got the little trophies for being the best at every single main tank, and, he's got them sitting on his shelf, and he wants to add the Hammond one now.
AVRL, when you said before that we felt like maybe this team comp that we were seeing was a little bit, they were not worried about being punished. How does that play out then if they do make it through to finals and they go up against a team who's won semi-final number 2 and they're a little bit more difficult? Is that something you'd expect to see again, or do they need to change it up?
It's about how you read your opponents. In that specific example you have on Lee Jung Tower, it is going to be Kanga running more of a, it's the GOATS composition. It's 3 tanks, 3 supports. They're going to run at your team, but it's a very frontal-focused team composition. There's no Genjis, there's no Traces, there's no flankers that put the backline pressure on, so you have the Sydney Drop Bear supports that feel like they have the confidence to play something that would ultimately be quite vulnerable to a dive or a flanking situation. But if it's a front-on assault, they can handle that. And on Eichenwald, it depends again, do Sydney Drop Bears read correctly what Kanga going to be bringing to the table? If so, they're going to have a good time.
But for those playing along at home, Genome, how does this dive comp that we saw so much in Season 1 play out differently to when we talk about this 3 tanks and 3 supports? Why is it different, and which one works out better in different situations?
So if you're very close range, especially in a place with, where you can't jump around easily as D.Va or Winston, that's where the GOATS comp is going to come into its own. You've got 3 tanks, so there's a lot of health, and then you've got your 3 healers, so it means it's very hard to take down any individual unit of the GOATS composition. Of course, with Dive, it's all about mobility. It's about jumping on, disrupting them, maybe jumping onto the healers, the vulnerable pieces of the opposition team's composition, and using that really fast mobility to just get where they can't go.
Well, guys and girls, we are heading through to Eichenwald. It is the hybrid map type. The first point you need to capture as the attacking team. If you do capture it in the time allotted, you then have a payload to push through. Jordan, I know you think the Drop Bears are going to pick this up. How do you think that's going to play out here? Are you favouring point number 1 in terms of holding here? What do you think is going to happen?
I definitely think that Sydney Drop Bears are going to have a good time here on the first point. Interested to see what Jordation is going to go onto here. Not expecting it to be that Wrecking Ball. That would be a little bit of a curveball, so to speak. But Color Hex on the Farah certainly is going to be the option of choice, in my opinion. A Kraken on Sombra. Now that is interesting because that could actually be a possibility. The triple DPS setup for Sydney Drop Bears is an option. We've seen them do it quite a bit. Typically, a Kraken has gone onto the Tracer, but today that's going to be Jordation. And again, he's going to be back onto another comfort hero. We saw him playing so much Tracer last season. It's kind of fallen a little bit out of the meta during the regular season this season, but it's sort of coming back now with this Sombra Tracer combination.
Yep.
On the other side of things, Kanga Esports, it does look like they're once again going to be running that GOATS composition, and I am a little bit fearful for them. So their win condition here is going to be trying to get on top of Bertlog. If they can take him out of this fight, that means no heals there for Sydney Drop Bears, being that a Kraken is onto the Sombra, but it's going to be tough to get to him. They have to go through 3 DPS and the 2 tanks.
And here we go, coming through straight away, trying to run through the back, at Kanga Esports here on attack, and Merit's gone down straight away.
They need a reset. This has already not worked out for Kanga Esports. You're going to see them jump off the edge here. Now that's intended. They don't want to feed over any ultimate charge to the Sydney Drop Bears. Look at Color Hex though. He's already up to 93% of that rocket barrage. There was not even a fight there, Ben, and this is why we keep talking about him, especially on that Farah. He seems to be able to get so much work done. This is why he's been picked up from an international organization, and he's up to, potentially bigger and better things, we shall see. But for Kanga Esports, they need to ensure that they get to the point without losing a member like they did there. Merit going down, a little unfortunate. It happens. They reset quickly. They've still got the time on the board. They're going to give it another crack, but they have changed the composition up. They've recognized what Sydney Drop Bears are running, and they want to change up to try and counter that.
Yeah, they don't know what their opponents are playing until they come face to face, and then one team comp may be more suitable. Chrono Dota into the backline, trying to cause a bit of a ruckus, I suppose, trying to make life a little bit more difficult. And Color Hex just uses the Q, pops the rocket barrage there on the Farah, finds 2, the rest of the team resets. Now, as you said, you really do need to reset quickly. There are a lot, they're kind of like set plays, aren't they, Jordan? Yeah. You need to have everyone there accounted for.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe that rocket barrage, a little unnecessary from Colourhex. The fight was looking quite a bit wonky, I will say, from Kanga Esports. They were very split up. It seemed like Chrono was in there on his own. He got picked off easily by Sydney Drop Bears. And I think, once again, Kanga have given Sydney Drop Bears too much tempo in this match. You can see Sydney Drop Bears building those ultimates up, and Kanga are so far behind that they're, again, fighting from behind.
Here from Jordation. Doesn't even need to use it yet, just trying to make life a little bit more difficult. Quat's going to go down. Chrono looking low. That's a 1-for-1. One tank from each team comp has been eliminated so far. Roro is low, Merit staying alive. That ultimate ability now for Ana is available. Very, very useful indeed. A Kraken onto Locust. Sydney Drop Bears just holding strong. In this sort of situation though, however, Jordan, if you're going 1-for-1, theoretically, on this point, that should be in favour of the attacking team because their spawn is closer.
Theoretically it should, yes, but Bertlog, if he doesn't die, remember, he can always resurrect one of his teammates. So as long as it's only the one player for Sydney Drop Bears dying, and that was what it was in that case, they'll be okay.
Sounds to me like that EMP going out in the background. There's Loki, he's going to pop his as well. It's a 1-for-1 EMP. Very few abilities available until that EMP does run out. Jungle Jazz is down, Davey being DMEC. Quat trying to drop back, Roro up to 50% on his pulse bomb charge right now, trying to chase down Quat's there on the Wrecking Ball. But with only 60 seconds remaining here, Jordan, Kanga are yet to get a single tick on this first point.
Once again, we're looking for them to build those ultimates up, but so far it's only the Ana ultimate available for Kanga Esports, despite having 3 or 4 fights. Obviously, they used the EMP last fight, but that came out after a Kraken's. Sydney Drop Bears followed up very quickly on their own EMP, and the fight was already lost by the time Locust threw out his EMP, so a wasted ultimate there. Minefield out now from Sydney Drop Bears. Kanga need to reset. They just need to slow down. Don't fight in that minefield. They've still got 30 seconds.
Self-destruct from Davey over the top, looking to find one. That's a Kraken down. That's a big pick. Unfortunately, Jungle Jazz goes down. The ultimate available, and Colourhex again cleans them up. 19 seconds on the clock. If Kanga cannot get through to point A and capture it, that will be it. And Drop Bears will only need to find 33% on point A to win Eichenwald.
Well, who's going to get onto that point right now for Kanga Esports? That's my question. Someone needs to touch. It's Roro that looks like he's got the job to do. But he's not on the point right now. No one's on the point. Oh dear, it's gone wrong for Kanga Esports, Ben. This is nerves showing right now. Not a single person on that point. They had a chance. They had a chance at another fight there, but that's not going to be the case, and maybe the situation is getting to them.
Look, to be fair, this is a big crowd. As we said before, this is the first time we've had esports here in Laver Arena. It's very exciting, and of course, this is one ultimate opponent here in the Sydney Drop Bears. The Drop Bears have played so very well all through season number 1. Now we're into season 2. They are playing even better. They look so good right now.
They absolutely do, and really to get up to a 2-0 advantage, needing only one more map then after that to win this series and get into the finals. Sydney Drop Bears need only one tick here on Eichenwald. Not very often you see a full hold like that in a match like this. So Kanga Esports, they have a very, very big task ahead of them here on the defensive side. I hope they have something prepared.
To see this come through now for Kanga, they will have to hold point A just like we saw the Drop Bears do. For the Drop Bears to win Eichenwald, they need to capture the point and hold it until we get to 33%. At that point, they will win the map. And as you said, they'll be 2-0 up. We're looking at these team comps, Jordan. We seeing anything interesting yet, or are they just putting in surprises for now?
Well, Roro on the Genji, if Kanga Esports do decide to hang around with this one, I'm quite excited to see. He's a very, very solid Genji player. Once again, we're going to be seeing Colourhex, however, on that Farah. And that's obviously not a bad choice for Sydney Drop Bears here on this first point. He should be able to make it work if Kanga don't have too much available to deal with him. And at the moment, they don't really have that. Short of Locust getting a nice hack across onto Colourhex, there's not really anyone that's going to be able to easily get him out of the sky. Yes, the Genji can, to an extent, deal with him, but it's very tough when there's a Mercy pocket for the Farah to kind of deal with the Farah in a composition like this for Kanga Esports. I think, again, this is going to be very tough. I almost feel as though we might see Sydney Drop Bears just roll onto this first point, cap it out in the first fight.
Well, they're going to be rolling here, Jordan, because Quats once again coming through on the Wrecking Ball. As I say that, they see and they swap out. What's this team comp?
This is something that Sydney Drop Bears told us about. They like to kind of do a little bit of scouting early on. They don't commit to the fight straight away. They'll go back. They'll change their composition. Now they have the ideal composition to deal with what they've seen, and Kanga Esports in trouble.
Well, they're going to try and push out on to the point right now. Color Hex already up to 30%.
That's a big
donation going to get hacked out and picked up. Huge plays coming out from Davey, as you said. That's what they need to do. Now, Chrono's gone down. No tank available.
Davy's low.
That's a big pick. Davey, as you said, almost going to be D-Mex is picked up. This might be enough for the Drop Bears to find Eichenwald.
Well, you're looking at Kanga Esports here. You're thinking, what can they do to hold on to this point? They need some big ultimates, but they're losing players across the board right now, Ben. Sydney Drop Bears, they're just looking far too good, and that is going to be it. Kanga Esports will not be able to hold at all on the second map, and now we are at 2-0 for Sydney Drop Bears, and I'm feeling a dynasty start to build, Ben.
Yes, 2-0 in this best-of-5 semi-final, our first semi-final here at the Melbourne Esports Open, our first semi-final here at Laver Arena. Very exciting time here in Melbourne, Genome, particularly if you are a Drop Bears fan. Maybe not. Come back to you in a second, but very, very close indeed it has been. As we take a look, that trophy is pretty epic. Let's go again. What were your thoughts?
They're really starting to believe in themselves now, Ben. I mean, maybe coming into this series, they were like, everyone says we're the best, but are we?
Yeah.
Now they're getting it. The momentum, the confidence. They say, yes, we are the best, and this series is proving it.
They are playing very, very well right now. They look unstoppable. AVRL, the Kanga, they're going to have a little bit of a break now. What do you say as they, you know, when they take their 5 minutes, if you're the captain, if you're the coach, what are the words you say to these players?
I think they need to be able to go away and sort of readdress the situation. They came in very prepared, so it goes back to the preparation. They had done a lot of notes, a lot of grinding, a lot of work for the Sydney Drop Bears over the course of 2 maps that hasn't worked out for them. It's been Sydney Drop Bears in the driver's seat. Kanga said they wanted to be in the driver's seat themselves. They now need to push ahead. They need to start bringing that and kind of leveling up, as was said earlier on in the pre-game. They need to show more than what they have so far, because a completed hold 0 points for Kanga Esports and Eichenwald is far too one-sided.
It is a little bit tough, Jordan. You did say if you thought the Kanga were going to come through with a map, it would be the next one after this one. What did you see here in this matchup?
Well, unfortunately for Kanga Esports, it's not looking so great even here on Eichenwald. I mean, that was their map choice, Ben. So if they're going to have an opportunity to win a map, you'd think it should be on the map that they do choose. But for me, it seems like they keep putting themselves in too big of a hole to dig themselves out of. The Sydney Drop Bears are being given too much room initially. They're always having the perfect composition that they read against Kanga Esports initially. And they're able to start off every single map with a big ultimate advantage, with the tempo, with everything.
Yep.
And Kanga Esports, they're always having to play catch-up. As of yet, we haven't seen Sydney Drop Bears playing from behind. And that was a key thing that we were talking about when we were looking at Sydney Drop Bears. They haven't really had to play from behind at all throughout this season.
Yeah.
So if somehow Kanga can start to force them to feel a bit of pressure, you know, put them under some sort of strenuous scenario, which they're currently not under, that I think maybe where we might start to see some cracks for Sydney Drop Bears. But at the moment, Sydney Drop Bears, they're kind of going for a walk in the park. They're not feeling concerned at all about this. So that's the key for Kanga. They need to start off well. And unfortunately, their game plan has not gone the way that it should have.
Look, the thing, I suppose, on Kanga's side here is that we are playing a best-of-5, that we do have a little bit of a break here for them to reset, to regroup, just take a breather. Obviously, you come out onto the stage, everyone's cheering lights and whatnot. Now they can almost get settled in. Genome, if we move through, the reverse sweep is what they're going to be looking for here. Going to have to kick it off on the next map type. Jordan thinks they can do it here on the next map.
Whoa. That's a big ask, and putting words in his mouth, perhaps, there.
I said it was their best chance.
I'm taking the words that you said this morning and inferring from them what I want to.
It's a chance.
I mean, there was a ray of hope for them when Sydney Drop Bears started their defense there, right? I saw the Sombra come out from Geordie, and I was like, hey, this actually doesn't match up that well against what Kanga is defending with. But then, as you said, they're calm, they're prepared, they understand the cycle of these compositions, and they just go back to Swan and swap it off. And that's that kind of calm, rational thinking and decision-making that's going to get them through.
Well, they've got 5 minutes to sit down.